Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Dolphin. I use she, they pronouns. I am the Graduate Assistant Advisor at the Office of Undergraduate Research Services, and I'm so happy to be presenting about research conferences today in a one-on-one workshop. Today, I will be drawing from my experiences, mainly from the Western Psychological Association. So let's get into it. Here is a brief overview about what we will be talking about today. So why should you attend and present at conferences? Where can you find opportunities? How can you make it a reality? What will be asked of you at conferences? And then we'll follow it up with advice sharing with a bonus round of elevator speeches. So let's jump into it. Now, there are many skills that you can develop for conferences, but here are just 5 of them. So when I first started out, I was literally a nervous wreck. But the thing is, when you practice at something, it becomes less daunting over time. And this comfortability will translate to other opportunities, such as interviews. So, for example, in an interview, you're going to need to talk about the who, what, when, where, and why about your experiences, just like you would when talking about your research. Second, conferences are a very supportive environment. Conferences are basically having nerds in one place, and that's the way I like to think about it. So people are going to be interested in your work. They're going to have friendly comments and questions, which will ultimately strengthen your research. Now, worst case scenario is you don't know an answer to a question, which is completely valid, and we've all been there. So you can say something like, that's a really great question. I don't have the answer at this time, but if you give me your contact info, I'd be happy to follow up with you. And then bam, you just got a networking experience. Another example of a benefit is that you're going to practice your presentation communication skills. So that means what will be your pacing, your eye contact, enthusiasm, gestures, ultimately connecting with your audience. Another one is that research shows that presenting improves your writing because both are communication, just in different formats. And then lastly, you have worked so extremely hard on your research. Now is the time to show it off and enrich other people with the knowledge that you have built. You're going to hear about other people's enthusiastic research, and I want you all to get inspired. I want you to write down any comments and questions and ideas that you have during your presentations. You'll also get to hear about the latest cutting edge research. So another benefit is that you will be connecting with others. There's tons of networking opportunities, and networking can be daunting, especially if you're reserved and shy like me. So thankfully, conferences have built-in events which make it less stressful and more fun. So here are some examples from conferences I attended. So first, there was a junior scholar mentorship breakfast. Basically, they gave us a list of professors who we could choose from in the research interests. You would pick your top 3, and then they would place you with one of the professors along with other scholars who were interested in the professor's work. So you could just sit back, eat some really delicious food, and engage in some very meaningful conversations. If engaging in conversations was too much for you or you're too nervous, ask for their contact information afterwards and follow up by email. And we'll be talking more about that later on. They also have many workshops that you can learn from. Everyone in a workshop has wisdom to share and for you to gain. They usually share materials as well for you to take home. And then there are also events to learn soft skills. So for example, I attended one that learned about surviving and thriving in graduate school. So I learned about the application process, the culture, and some tips on how to maintain that work-life balance. They also had a conversation hour, which was like the breakfast minus the food, and it was more geared on the professor's expertise rather than a general conversation. So Dr. Bogart, she focused on disability research, and we were able to talk about the field, any critiques or suggestions or visions of the future that we have for the disability field. We summarized why we were interested in that type of research, and then we shared our very interesting and rewarding stories being in the field. And then the last networking event was a social hour. So for social hours, I recommend bringing a friend and a fellow research assistant colleague. They have hors d'oeuvres and really great name tags, so it makes it less daunting to know who to talk to. And then they also have recruitment fairs sometimes as well. Presenting at conferences also will be great for applying to opportunities such as grad schools or post-graduation professions. So here is an example of how you put it on your resume or your CV, also known as a curriculum vitae, which is basically an academic resume, which is very lengthy and broad. So first, you want to bold your name. Then you're going to list out any other researchers in the order of their contribution, and you should talk to your research lab about this. Then you'll write the month and year in parentheses, type out the title in italics, name what type of presentation it was. So was it a poster, an oral presentation, etc. Type out the conference name. And then lastly, if applicable, write the location of conference. So one of my favorite benefits is the fun memories that you're going to gain, both on a professional and a personal level. So I and multiple Build students went to the Western Psychological Association, WPA, in Portland. We visited the shopping districts, the famous Voodoo Donut Shop, and admired street art. Also, fun fact about Portland is it holds the world's largest used bookstore. Conferences are usually at big cities and fun places, so remember to include some fun activities in your schedule. Now we're going to be talking about finding conferences and funding. So I first recommend these two opportunities to every undergraduate research student. So first is CSULB itself, the research competition. The application requires a maximum of 5-page double-spaced paper that is due in February. If it's accepted, you'll present in front of faculty, jurors, and other students in March. Now, the fun aspect of it is that the first place winners in each category will receive $100. And then 10 students among the first place and second place winners will be selected to present at the annual California State University statewide student research competition in April. Another conference I recommend is the National Conference of Undergraduate Research. You can present posters, quick pitches, and oral presentations. We'll talk more about this later on. And then the application is due in November. And then the conference is also in April. And then I also recommend you see our list of 205 conferences. The options include posters, quick pitches, oral presentations, and more advanced presentations. There are conferences around the year, but they tend to be in the spring and summer, while the applications tend to be in the fall. We have information also about the location, registration fees, if any, the specific dates, and then have links to the program page and application. Now, most conferences applications require a 100 to 300 word abstract or synopsis of your study. And then more advanced presentation will require a summary or paper. So now let's talk about money. Some, but not many conferences have virtual options that you can attend. So you'll first need to think of travel. So if it's nearby, you can carpool and drive to save money. For meals, I strongly recommend the app Too Good To Go. Like Chef's Kiss, it is an amazing app. Basically, before restaurants throw out their food, you can sign up to get the leftover foods for half the price, and you would pick it up the time period after. So if you want breakfast food, you would pick it up at lunch, and you would get some really amazing food for a really discounted price. And this is available in most big cities. I also recommend sharing a hotel or motel rooms with other attendees. Airbnbs and hostels tend to be cheaper as well. And then sometimes conferences have discounts on nearby hotels. And then lastly, not all conferences have membership fees or registration fees. However, if they do, sometimes they have volunteer opportunities such as working at the front desk to have discounted rates or registration waivers. They also sometimes have sliding income scales for low-income students and group discounts. Now, fortunately, CSULB offers funding. The Student Life and Development Fund reimburses students for $300 for posters and $400 for paper presentations. After the conference, you'll submit a list of materials proving that you were engaging in the conference, such as your abstract, name tags, receipts, etc. And then the deadline depends on the date and the semester of the conference. Now, the Associated Students Incorporated Fund also reimburses students. It is $500 for any conferences in the continental US, and then $600 for other locations. The application is due 3 weeks before you depart. It also requires you to submit your acceptance letter and your abstract, as well as anticipated receipts. And then some conferences offer its own scholarships for low-income students. I recommend scanning the QR code to get links to the CSULB funding application. Now let's move on to presentation types. There are 4 general presentation types available to undergraduate students. So from the most to least challenging, you have roundtables or flash talks, oral presentations, and then posters. All can be ongoing or completed research, but you have to have a considerable amount of research before you apply. And then time limits are extremely crucial in conferences because it is very disrespectful if you go over your time to other audience members and presenters. Flash talks, they tend to be 2 to 3 minutes with one simple PowerPoint slide. And the purpose of a flash talk is you want the audience wanting more at the end, so they'll connect with you. You'll answer questions about your research briefly afterwards. You're going to want to answer these questions. So why is it interesting? What is it about? How'd you do it? With whom did you carry out the work? And then you want to have 1 or 2 takeaway points for the audience. Now for roundtables, they are organized conversations with other presenters about a chosen topic, and the audience tend to ask questions or just observe. And then for oral presentations, they tend to be 10 to 15 minutes with a Q&A afterwards, and you can use a PowerPoint. I recommend bringing a laptop, USB port, and hard copies of your presentation just in case you have technical difficulties. And then lastly, as you can see with the posters are next to each other in a huge open room. Poster sessions are 90 minutes. So basically you would have people during that time walk around, see posters, and then if something strikes their interest, they will step closer to the poster to read it. And that's when you would jump in with talking about your research. When you talk about your research, you want to summarize what's on the poster and talk for 3, but not longer than 5 minutes while pointing to your poster, but you want the attention to be on you. And then you want to pay attention to the audience. So what strikes their interest when you're talking? So you know what to elaborate later on. And then you want to pay attention to who is your audience. So if you have a faculty member who comes up to you, you know that you can use more jargon and go more in depth and speak faster. But if it is a student, you want to explain it as you would want it explained to you. So let's talk more about posters. Now, here are the 2 most common aspects and formats of posters for undergraduate students. Posters are the most common presentations for undergraduate students. I want you to take a moment to look at these 2 posters and notice the difference. So you'll see that both of them are a trifold format. For the one on the left, the first one, you see that on the left side of the poster, so the first trifold, you have the background information and research methods. And then in the center of the poster is the results with pictures such as graphs. And then on the right side, you have the discussion, implications, limitations of the results, followed by the conclusion and references. However, the new format for posters has the left side be brief bullet points of the introduction methods, just like the first one. But in the center of for the results is a clear takeaway. And it will also have a QR code at the bottom, which will link to your email, but you also want to type out your email next to the QR code. And that makes it easier for people to follow up with you. Sometimes people also have QR codes that link to their working paper that you can have printed out. So you'd have the QR code printed out and give it to audience members who are especially intrigued by your research so you can collaborate later on and maybe get some revisions. And then the last part is the same too, where you have the discussion conclusion with more images. The text is minimal so that the text is larger and easier to read from far away. And also they'll be more likely to come to the poster to talk to you. If you have less on your poster, it's more for them to listen to you, similar to how you would have a PowerPoint slide structure. Now, the last section is about networking 101. So I create business cards with my name, email, a LinkedIn if you have one, your school, and your major. I used Canva to make mine for free. You can print them on campus or pay for it to have thicker paper at places like Staples. I also recommend that you wear very comfortable clothes, and please do not wear heels because you will regret it. If you are low income and you need professional clothes, please check out the nonprofit Close the Deal. And then as soon as you are accepted, register for the conference so you get the early bird rates. Apply for funding at CSULB, and then notify your professors of your absence. And then to present your presentation, you're going to want to create a timeline building up to your conference. And I like to make my timeline working back. So when will I need to practice? When will I need to have a complete poster draft to my mentor? And then when will I need the poster text rough draft to my poster? And then when the schedule for the conference is available and disseminated, you want to review the list of attendees. So you're going to determine who you would like to meet. And I recommend picking 1 faculty member and 2 students to meet with. Then you're going to reach out early to schedule meetings ahead of the event, but also make sure you have time in your schedule for casual meetings. And then you're going to want to seek out opportunities to connect, including choosing events and talks to attend. And then also schedule time to network, but also time to recharge and to have fun, like we talked about earlier. So after the event, you're going to organize your materials. So any business cards or contact information that you collected, write where you met them, what you discussed, and when and why you'll reach out to them. That way that when you revisit your notes and your agenda, it'll make it easier when you follow up by email. And you want to follow up with the new contacts you collected, but also the presenters that you did not get a chance to meet. And then lastly, reflect on what you learned. How can you use this newfound knowledge, ideas, and connections to your benefit and others' benefits? Also, if you have a LinkedIn, feel free to make a post about the event. So here is our bonus round for elevator pitches. Elevator pitches are 30 to 60-second personal positioning statements, aka a sales pitch. You're going to cover who you are. So your name, I am blank or I do blank. What do you have to offer? So pick 1 or 2 strengths, what you are looking for. So as a result, I've been able to do, and then insert your accomplishments, and then what you're interested in doing. So what do you want to do in the future compared to what you are doing now? And the last part is optional. So do you know any people who blank? And only use it if you have a specific question or request in mind. And then lastly, you want to tailor it to the conversation, the person you were talking to. So here's the example I'm going to be using at the next Western Psychological Association conference. So, hi, my name is Emily Dopping. I use she, they pronouns. I am a second-year master's student on a 3-year track studying psychological research. What I particularly like doing is research with disabled and other marginalized college students, including their empowerment and activism. As a result, I've been fortunate to manage a disability justice research lab and receive funding for my thesis using participatory action research. I intend to pursue a PhD in higher education and community psychology, and I'm here presenting a side project about chronic pain webcomics. I hope to connect with other disabled and disability scholars with community-based researchers to listen to their wisdom. Now, I want us to share other advice. So if you have any other advice today, please feel free to type out the comments, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. So thank you so much for watching. It was a joy presenting today. And here is my and the Office of Undergraduate Researchers Conference contact information. Happy conferencing, everyone. Bye.